Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our Foreign Correspondents Talk series. This is the 2025 edition. My name is Alan Herrera. I oversee editorial operations for the Association of Foreign Press Correspondents in the United States. That is the wonderful AFPC-USA. And as I always say, in my capacity, leading editorial operations, I have the wonderful opportunity to speak to foreign journalists and learn about their lives, learn about their careers, learn about, well, just hear any insights that they have to provide on, well, our current political moment. There is certainly always much to discuss. And today I'm very happy to share that I am speaking with the esteemed journalist Diyar Kurda. He is a Kurdish journalist and the Washington D.C. bureau chief for the Rudaw Media Network. It's one of the leading media outlets in the Middle East. He's been with Rudaw for about a decade now. He's been editing the international desk, and he has just a very long history of interviewing a who's who of people in Washington and covering topics like peace and conflict and security and all these other things. So I am going to welcome him now. Thank you, Diyar, for being here with me. And once again, congratulations on your Professional Excellence Award that you received from our organization in December. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. It's so good to be with you. I'm so happy to do this with you. And thanks for the introduction.
You're very welcome. Like I said, it's going to be fun, and I'm happy that you're here. Um, to start off, well, it's been a crazy week for journalists all around, all around the United States. We have been leading up, right, to the inauguration of Donald Trump, and here we are closing out the first week, of his administration. Well, sorry, since his administration came into power, I'll say. And I would just like to know, you have a lot of experience. How have you led coverage over the last few days, and how are you approaching it while still maintaining the point of view, I should say, of your outlet and meeting its mandate?
Yeah, Alan, just some months ago when we were planning to cover the inauguration, we had a different plan, and we want to have a big team here and doing so many interviews and going outside, doing lives there and taking the box pops from people, having people, local people to talk about the inauguration, how they are feeling about having new administration, someone coming to the White House who has so different point of view about everything's that happening inside and outside the country. But just days ahead of the inauguration, they changed the whole scope of plan, and they said, okay, we're not doing it outside, we're going inside and doing it inside. So this changed our plan too, and it was very cold outside. Yeah, and because we, as international media, we don't have a big team like the US media, so we have to be everywhere at the same time, going to the White House, then going to the Capitol Hill, then going to the National Mall, and everywhere that Donald Trump is trying to be there. So the first difficult things for us, we had to get accreditation from many places. Okay, so I went to the Congress. We had another accreditation for Congress just for doing what's happening inside the Capitol Hill and in front of the Capitol Hill. And then for the things that Donald Trump is doing outside of the Capitol, you have to go to the Trump and Vance team to get another accreditation. Then having that, it was a big headache for a journalist like us who's doing the everything by themselves because we don't have a big team here. But it was fun, and I love it to do it because for the first few hours I was at the White House, and then it was not easy to go there. There were a lot of checkpoints, but we managed to go there, and we're waiting until the president and the vice president and everyone were there, and it was so cool to give the information from the site to the people 100 miles away from here. And they are very keen to have information about what's going on inside of Washington, D.C. Because having a new president with very much different perspective, it's not only matter for the American people, it's matter for everyone. including my country, including my people, which they are living in a very destabilized region, which the American foreign policy, American national policy has so much impacts on them. And having a president like that, who is very clear about his foreign policy and national policy, how he is dealing with single events that are happening in that region, it was very much interesting for the people. And that's why we were on TV. We did live, and we take people. We have the opportunity to interview some of the foreign officials about how the Biden administration is getting packed and what they are leaving and what they left for the new administration. And we get a chance to interview some people who are close to Donald Trump's administration. I had the opportunity to interview Sabrina Singh. She's the deputy spokesperson for Pentagon, just a days ahead of the inauguration, and it was a very great conversation with her. She was telling me about all the Biden's administration policy towards Syria, towards Iraq, towards the Kurdistan, and towards what's going on there. So with having this information for our audience, then we get new people here. It was fun, and I love it to cover it. We were here since the very early morning, about 6 a.m. Then we stayed here up to 8 to 9 p.m. But I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel anything that I'm doing too much. I love it. And it was a great time to covering Trump administration inauguration.
I think given you make some very interesting points, and I think given the fact that we all, as members of the media, we anticipated that this would be a very rocky time, right? But journalism is ultimately, and I believe you brought this up in the speech actually that you gave when you accepted the award that that AFPC-USA gave you. Journalism is ultimately it's a calling, right? It's a calling, and it can be very, very, very difficult to continue in pursuit of that calling, especially when you have all of these factors that really at times can hamper our ability, right, to bring the news to people. And there's no doubt that there will be more attacks against the press under a Trump administration. That's something that we've largely anticipated and have been preparing for. But I find it interesting, right, that you as a Kurdish journalist, right, the region, the area that you specifically, right, are representing, it's always been within the crosshairs of American foreign policy, right? It's obviously, it's very complicated. It's a very complicated issue. And from my vantage point, right, it seems like every time that there's a transfer of power, right, particularly where the Middle East is concerned, it's always a little scary to figure out, okay, well, what's going to happen, to this region or this area, because it just feels like it's just constantly being batted back and forth. So how do you feel right now as a Kurdish journalist, as you prepare to handle, I should say, right, the not just reporting the Trump administration, but specifically in seeing how they will respond in regard to Middle Eastern policy?
So I think that during the Trump administration, there will be a big shift from the foreign policy. The first and foremost, which we have heard from Trump and his team, they say that we are going to have peace through strength in the Middle East. So we have to know that what do they mean when it comes to the American troops in Iraq and Syria, and how they are going to deal with the Iranian proxy groups, and how they are going to deal with the current conflict that we do have in that region. I think Donald Trump, he's very realistic people, and he's doing what's the best for his national interest. And that will make some people in that region very concerned, because they see that if there is something not in the interest of the United States national security, then the US will not paying too much attention. which in the previous administration, there were so much things that they have done. They've done for democracy, they've done for the values that the US is paying too much attention to it, but this will be changed. And that's why everyone is so prepared for Trump administration. There is some advantage for some groups in that region. There's some disadvantage for some groups in that region. We, as a Kurds, I think there's a bit concern from that region because during the first administration, we witnessed how Donald Trump withdrew its forces in some parts of Syria, which the Kurds came under attack of the Turkish forces, and they lost land, they lost people, and there were a lot of impacts on that. So they don't want to see the same situation with the second Trump administration. But at the same time, because the Kurds has a cause, they think that there will be some support from the Trump administration for their cause too. And in regards to the Middle East, I think Donald Trump, he is doing a lot of pressure, putting a lot of pressure on Iran in two ways. First, to cut the Iranian hands in destabilizing the region. And the second, to bring them on the table and doing a deal, which Trump is looking for having this deal even in his first administration. Either these two is good for the region, in my point of view. The first one, if we have a stable region, if it's because of Donald Trump's deterrence policy, or having a deal with Iranian, it's good because the people will have some relief and they will live in peace, at least for some time, which is in the interest of the region, it's in the interest of the US too. And also Trump is trying to deal with some countries. We saw he spoke with NBA, Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince, and he's willing to visit Saudi as a first country. Then Donald Trump is the only president of the United States who's not visiting Europe and UK as a first, his overseas visit, but he's visiting Saudi Arabia. That's why, and this is because Trump is paying too much attention for the interest of his government and his country, which he said, if I get a lot of money from Saudi doing a lot of good deals, then it's okay to do that. That means that there will be some change in that region. But the good thing, what they say, we are making peace through strength, that's giving a strong signal to the groups in that region, the proxy groups and the groups who wants to destabilize the region. They will think twice. They will think twice, and they are not making any destabilizing activities because they think that they have Trump who killed Qasem Soleimani, and they have a Trump who is doing anything for protecting their forces. That's why I think the Trump policy for the Middle East, it will be good because it makes some pieces as he did last time through Ibrahim Accords. And he's trying to have a strong deterrence policy, which make some calm and stability in that region too. But at the end, let's see how the other actors are responding to that policy. Are they willing to do whatever the US is telling them, or are they challenging the United States, as we have witnessed some of the events in the last administration? I hope everything will be good for the region, having 4 years of strong US policy in that region. But you should look into their interest, but in their allies' interest too. We have the Kurds in that region. They fought alongside the US, not for the US, but for the whole region, and they fought the ISIS, a terrorist which could be threat on anyone's on the earth. And at the same time, the Kurds, they are sharing the same value that the US is promoting and advocating for. I hope everything be good for that region. And I hope Donald Trump, when he says that they are making peace through strength, it will not harm the other people's interest in that region too.
You're providing some very, well, how do I put this? You're speaking candidly, but you are providing some insights into just how this is a very nuanced, right? It's a very nuanced situation. It's a very delicate situation. And you are, you're no doubt attuned to everything going on, within that region. And I'm curious, given that you come from, from such a turbulent region that's often, again, right, to reuse this term, in the crosshairs, of U.S. foreign policy. When did you realize that you wanted to be a journalist and that you wanted to report on these issues?
So I have a very different background from being a journalist. I studied water resource engineering.
That
Back,
is very different.
I was in the University of Kurdistan, however, but I was very much engaged with covering and monitoring policy and politics and doing journalism and editorial things while I was at the high school and also at the university. I was a very active student. I was very engaged with reporting inside the university, doing speech and going and making activities. Back then, when I was in the university, my last year, I had a chance to join Rudaw. They needed someone to translate English to Kurdish when someone is speaking like Donald Trump or President Obama or anyone. I was the one who's translating English to Kurdish simultaneously. They needed that people for doing this for them. When I joined Rudaw, and I loved the job, I said, "Oh, it's a very interesting job. This is the one that I want to be." Because I was very engaged with other media. I was very much reading the newspapers and paying attention to the news coverage. And then I said, I love the job. And they gave me another chance to work as an editor in the international desk, because in that time back in Rudaw, we were covering the news through the cables and through the wires. We were pursuing the news through AP, AFP, Reuters. Then we translated those international news to Kurdish, and I was working that time on the international news. And then I was promoted to be a head of planning department, because with my background in engineering and having experience at the international desk and getting familiar with every department through Dow, with assignment, with planning desk, with editorial, with intake, with portal, then I went to the planning department. And after that, they gave me the idea, if I'm coming to the Washington, D.C. and doing this job that I'm doing now, because before moving to Washington, D.C., I was coming to US. I was coming to US. It was not my first time. I was coming for the US for joining some youth gathering, youth summits, and some UN SDG programs and doing some courses. And they said, okay, when I came here, and then I found myself very interested in doing this. Thanks for my colleagues. They helped me a lot, and they taught me a lot. It was not easy to be a journalist in Washington, D.C., because you coming from a region, it's very, as you mentioned, it's a very destabilized region. It's not safe for journalists. And the way you are doing journalism in our region is very much different that you are doing it here in Washington, D.C. Everything was so new to me, but I was working so hard. I was staying for a long time in the office. I was trying to talk to anyone who's adding a value to my experience here. It was very tough, but I could manage it. And thanks to the friends, thanks to the colleagues who they supported me, and they gave me a lot of tools to do my job here. That's why it was February 2022. I came to Washington, D.C. And what I've done here, my team back in Kurdistan, they were surprised, because none of my predecessors could do this. Doing contacts with American officials, with the State Department, with the Pentagon, with other people, and finding news in a very quick way and translating to Kurdish and being the first one to report. That was make Rudaw to be a leading organization inside Iraq. And a bunch of news that I've covered here, there were a lot of reactions from Iraq to that news. And it was good for my outlet. Sometimes it made some problems for them, but I was happy for doing my job here as I was supposed to do.
This story is very interesting because it really gets to the heart about, or of, I should say, why it's so important, right? Those moments are so important when you meet people who are interested in you and what you have to offer, and they help you grow, they help you evolve, they cultivate they cultivate your talent. In this case, they saw something in you. It's very interesting, right, for me to hear, oh, wait a minute, you came from this engineering background, and here you are. But I think it's fascinating in that it also shows how different fields, right? A person can enter an entirely different field because of different skills that they pick up in an entirely separate discipline, right? Um, so actually now I'm curious about your experience in the planning department. Can you just go a bit more, I guess, into detail? I know, of course, that if you're working as an engineer in any capacity, you have to be a very meticulous person, right?
Yeah, look, working in the planning department, I think is the most difficult job that you have as a journalist within media outlets, because you have to be very well connected with everyone, and you have to be very aware about everything that's happening inside and outside of the organizations. And with the planning department, there were a bunch of people that they helped me to make the plan for the whole media outlets. So in Rudaw, every day we had 2 meetings. The meetings we're doing in the morning, and we just gather the news, what's going on around us, and what's the best to cover. And we have another meeting we call the planning meeting, which is in the afternoon. So we write the plan for every single department inside Rudaw, and we collect the plan from all the Rudaw's reporters. Okay, hey guys, what's going on your region? Then they will send the plan to you, and we from the planning department, we reviewing the plan and we check the plan, and we see if there's any better alternative to that plan or not. We write our comments and we amend the plan. Then we go to the planning department. In that planning department, every head of desks in Rudaw is coming there, and they are commenting on your plan. They will make the plan to work better. Then when you have the plan, then you will distribute the plan again to the reporters. Okay, hey guys, you want to go to the state department, you're doing this, that's good, that's fantastic. But we will bring this to your attention too, as we are covering that story. That might be good if you work on this too. And okay, let's have, for example, we have a president coming to Kurdistan, visiting Kurdistan. It's a head of states is visiting that region. And we are making the plan a month ahead of that. Okay, let's do some interview before he's coming here. Let's contact his office if he's willing to give an interview to Rudaw. Let's take the people's opinion, why they are thinking, what do they think about this visit? Let's do a report on that. Let's do a graphic on that. Let's do a real graphic on that. Let's do a motion graphic. Let's have a profile for these people who is going to visit here, and what's the most important issues that they are discussing. Okay, let's prepare some guesses for them. The planning department, I think the things that I've learned during my career as a journalist, I learned a lot from the planning department, because I was dealing with everyone at every stage in Rudaw, with the journalist, with non-journalist, with a driver, with bureau chiefs, with someone who's just arranging logistics. You have to be paying attention to every details that you are doing in that building. I was very happy to doing that because it taught me a lot. Now, what I'm doing here, it's part because I've learned a discipline from that planning department. You have to be so disciplined. Anything that goes wrong, it comes from you. And then you should be very aware, you should be very disciplined, you should have your own theory, how we are doing this, how we are doing in the best way. And you should be prepared. It's just like a hearing. When you go to the planning meeting, it's just like a Senate or Congress hearing. Okay, you will pitch them and everyone is commenting you and asking you the question. And you should have the answer for that question. Then you have to amend it. You have to recorrect it, re-edit it, then distribute it again. It was fun, but it was difficult. And I loved that job. I learned a lot from planning department. I think every journalist should work in that department if they want to be a good journalist.
Thank you for those insights. This is great, right? Because it gives certainly aspiring journalists, right, who would be, I hope they're listening to us right now, but aspiring journalists would really benefit, right, from this advice, right, and just like learning more about the ins and outs of media organizations. There's so much that goes into the news that people don't really think about. And it's been great for me, as you can imagine, getting to listen to journalists from all walks of life, such as yourself, and learning more um, about how they, just how they approach their careers. And, I mean, we've established that you are remarkably disciplined. You certainly have to be in a role like that. Um, but how did it feel the first time that you arrived, in the United States and you realized, oh, okay, disciplined or not, right? I have to adapt to a new country and deal with all of the challenges that come with that. So how did you feel? How did you approach that? Do you feel, I suppose that your prior record of being very disciplined helped you moving forward?
Actually, because moving for job, you mean, not the first time.
Yeah, yeah, like a job or really like your impressions of the United States overall. Mhm.
I've always loved to work here in the United States because it's very hard to work in the United States as a foreign journalist. Not all the doors are open upon you. And sometimes getting someone on your mic, getting someone on your screen is not an easy. Sometimes as you are dealing with the very sensitive issues in that region, not everyone is interested to give you information. And because you're working for a media outlet in a small country, not everyone is well aware of it, and it's very difficult to introduce yourself and to making connections. But on the other side, I love it to work here because if you have a discipline, if you are following the rules and regulations, it helps you a lot. It's not in our region. For example, if I go to the State Department, I'm free to ask any question. And he's not getting upset of me if I'm asking any question of him. But he's free to give me an answer or not. And I understand this. He's doing his job and I'm doing my job. But in my region, it's not like that. Some people who doesn't like you to ask them question, maybe they boycott you, maybe they will make you problem. And sometimes you don't feel safe for doing a story, for covering a story in that region. That's why I said to myself, it's very hard to work here, especially when you are a beginner, you have no background, you have no experience as a journalist. It's very difficult, and you are all alone yourself. You don't have a big team. You don't have 20 to 30 people. You have to cover Pentagon. You have to cover White House. You have to cover State Department, and you should be aware about anything's happening inside this building, especially to your region. Any statements, any speech, any comments about your region, you should be aware of that. And that's why we always say journalists in Washington D.C. is 24/7. It doesn't matter if you are having an off day or not. It doesn't matter if you have an annual leave or not. It doesn't matter if you are there or not. You should be aware what's going on, because you cannot follow up if you just not being there or not following it. That's why sometimes when I'm on vacation, I'm watching on my mobile and just following. Oh, he did this tweet. Oh, he said this yesterday in that press briefing. They mentioned this, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And at the first moment when I came here, I said, "Oh God, it's too much work. I have to do it." But what I thought at that time, and I have the same feeling now, being a journalist, you should have a passion. It's not like any other jobs. This is not for collecting money. This is not for just having a job. This is not because you graduated from some university and you just came routinely to have a job. You should have a passion for the job, and you should love the job. You should love the information. You should love to telling the truth. You should love to uncovering the truth. You should love to informing the public, because at the end, you are the one who's shaping the narrative in your country to your audience. If you don't have a love, you don't have a passion, you cannot be success in this job. That's why when you have passion, when you love your job, when you have energy, then you can do it. You can just move forward and overcome the obstacles. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I've spent 10 hours, I've spent 12 hours just doing on one story. Sometimes, let me tell you the truth. Some people, some journalists say, how do you interview these people? I will give them a tip. Do not give up. Do not give up. And don't see yourself as anyone else. Just do the way you are doing it. Sometimes it's for someone it's very easy to get some people. Sometimes it's not easy for you people. there's some tips you can do it. For example, if there's a visit to your region, you can reach out them. It will be so easy because they're interested to speak to your people. They're interested to speak to your audience. And sometimes when they have a message they want to pass to that region, they will be interested to give you an interview and give you some information on that region, but sometimes they are not. So don't give up. I've remembered the first time I've sent 12 emails in 12 months. Each month I've reminded them, okay, I want to do an interview with you about this. He was an official at the State Department. At the end, I had him on Rudaw. And I did my interview. I asked my questions. I didn't give up. Sometimes some people, okay, they send an email, they will not give you a chance. Next time you send an email, you will not give a chance. Next time you send an email, you'll not give a chance. But the end, I'm caring about what I'm doing. I need that person to be on my camera and to address the questions that my people have. So it doesn't matter how long it takes, but then you will get what you want. And as you have, it's just like building a house. When you have a house, the first floor, you don't need to build the first floor again. You will go to the second floor, and then you go to the third floor. You build up floor and after floor, and then at sometime you are at the top of big building. You will oversee everything. Everything is so easy to you. You have a good connection. You have a good reputation, and then you could get people more easily. Just recently, I did an interview. I just sent an email. But the first time I sent 12 emails for getting an interview. Look, but the things, you have to be serious, because I've seen some journalists here, they want to show up. You don't need to show up. This is not a job to be a hero. You should do your job in very truth way, in a very passionate way. Do the job, passing the information, and do not show up. You should not be an activist. You should not be a lobbyist. Just care about the job. And you should understand about your region, your situation, and calculating everything. Then you will get somewhere that you wanted to be there. It's all about hardworking. It's all about honesty. It's all about being passionate. It's all about doing your job in its best way. And if you not get what you wanted, where you dream it, you will get something that at least you deserve it.
I think I really love that answer, and you really touch upon how foreign journalists do have the ability, they have the capacity to succeed in the reporting landscape, right, of the United States, despite the fact that they have fewer resources available to them than their American counterparts. And that's that's remarkably important. It's important to know of all the things that, that we here in the United States take for granted, right? Such as access, as as you touched upon, like in your example with the State Department. And considering all of this and considering everything required of journalists in order to succeed in the field, right? All of these aspects that that I very much agree with you on, actually, because journalism is indeed a calling. It's not just a job. That said, what do you do, Diyar, as somebody who is always plugged in, because you have to be, right? But as somebody who's always plugged in, how do you take care of yourself? What do you do to remember to take care of yourself, about respecting your mental health and your needs, even while balancing these many responsibilities that are, well, they're going to ramp up, right, under the current administration? But what do you do to take care of yourself and to remind yourself to keep going?
It's a very difficult question. I think, yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do for taking care of yourself and doing your job in your best. The first thing, you should know, what are you doing? What's your plan? I came from planning department. If you have a plan, you should have plan one, plan A, plan B, plan C. Then at least you have a vision. And for that vision, you have a plan to do whatever you want to do it. And at the same time, you have to take care about yourself too, because we are doing a job and we love the job and we want to do this job in a perfect way. At the same time, you have to be very healthy. You have to be very well aware about yourself, well aware about your reputation, well aware about your human beings, because you are doing this for a purpose, which uncovering the truth and informing the public about what's going on here. And you should have the ability to do this. And sometimes it's very difficult for doing it, and sometimes it's very easy to doing it. Sometimes it's very normal. Do not give up. Take care of yourself, take care of your health, take care of your loved ones, take care of your family, and paying attention to them, and do your job in its best way. Sometimes it's a very difficult task, very difficult assignment, sometimes it's an easy assignment. But as you are keep going in, you are growing up and you will doing things better and better and better, and you will success in your career, I think so.
I think that that is a remarkable note to end this interview on. I think that you've shared, you've been a vital resource here. I genuinely love conducting these interviews and, you know, learning more, and it's helped me improve as a person. And I hope that any journalists who are listening to us today or who have explored this talk series in the past, I hope that they have taken and continue to take much away from it. So, Diyar, I just want to thank you for being here with me and for, you know, sharing so much of yourself in our, you know, limited time frame. But I sincerely appreciate the work that you do, and I have no doubt that you will continue to just be a force moving forward as we embark on what is going to be a very delicate and increasingly polarized media environment. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. Thanks for the opportunity. It's so good to be with you. And thanks for those who are watching us and who are seeing us later. Thank you so much. And I wish you a very good year with a lot of good stories and a lot of good interviews. Thank you. You are doing an incredible job, and I appreciate you all.